Welcome to the NRT Now podcast, giving you the latest in Christian music news, topics, and artist interviews directly from the largest Christian music site online, newreleasetoday.com. Now, here's your host, Jake.
Hey, welcome everybody. We are in episode 28, I think. I don't know, this quarantine's got me all sorts of messed up here, but I am joined with our guest, Andrew Holt of The Belonging Co. Thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Hey, Jake, man. Thanks so much for having me. Honored to be on here.
You are our one of our April artists of the month, so congratulations. I'm not sure how that works in the background. I'm not sure if you logged for it or what, but here we are.
Someone might have. I didn't, but I'm happy to be one. It's awesome.
And I think part of it is you guys just released a new song fairly recently.
Yeah, we just released a new song. I'm the same as you. All the quarantine's got me all messed up. But a little over a week ago.
Let's step back before we really talk about the song itself, but let's talk about a little bit about The Belonging Co. And we had Meredith Andrews on a couple of weeks ago, or a couple episodes ago.
Awesome.
And we talked a little bit about The Belonging Co., but let's talk about what the heart behind that ministry is and just kind of what your role is in The Belonging Co.
Totally. So The Belonging Co. is a church based here where I am right now in Nashville, Tennessee. We've been a church a little over 5 years, a little over 6 years now, sorry. It started in 2014 in our pastor's basement, actually. That's when we started the church. When they left their basement, it was in 2014. Our pastors were Henry and Alex Seeley. They're originally from Australia and moved to Nashville a few years before that. And really the church started in their basement as just they felt God was asking them to provide a space for creatives in Nashville. A lot of touring musicians who are gone on Sundays to come and have a place to just encounter God's presence and have a community, because a lot of those guys, because they were gone on Sundays, didn't have churches that they were planted in. They were just leading worship at everyone else's churches on Sundays. That's where it started. I don't think they never had the vision that it would be a church. In that time, at least, they thought it would just be that. And then God just started breathing on what they were doing in their basement, and the presence of God was falling in a powerful way. And it just started growing just by word of mouth. I mean, people were inviting their friends and like, you got to come to this basement, which sounds so crazy. Yeah. Like out of context, just come to my friend's basement.
Not shady at all.
But not shady at all. Honestly, my wife and I probably would have gone because we had some friends going. But we were like, this is kind of sketchy. We don't really know these people. It's in someone's house, I think. So we actually didn't go. So they left their house. Anyway, they left their house in 2014 and started the church, and it's grown so fast over those few years. And now we're having 3 services on Sundays, and I'm still doing Tuesday night church as well. And God's just been really faithful and really good to continue to pour out his presence. And no matter what, a lot of the way it's looked has changed, and the staff has grown, the church has grown, but the heart has always been the same. It's just, we meet together, we're going to lift up the name of Jesus and allow his presence to come and change our lives so that we can leave and make an impact on the world around us. And we have so many people in our church, like you just mentioned, Meredith, and in every walk of life, in every career, that have really caught that revelation of, I'm going to take what God's doing in my house on a Sunday and Tuesday, but I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to actually take it and let it change the way that I live, change the way that I do my career, the way that I write music, the way that I write books, the way that I work as a nurse or a doctor, whatever it is. And so we're really passionate about that, and just discipleship. Worship is a big part of what we do. And Henry, our pastor, has been a worship leader almost his whole life, a producer, a mix engineer. So naturally, a lot of what we do centers around worship, just because they recognize the power of that. I actually came on staff in 2016 as the worship pastor. Up until that point, Henry was actually leading the worship team, rostering it on Planning Center, as well as being the senior pastor. So he was leading worship almost every week at church and preaching after sometimes, which was wild. So he was carrying a lot and asked me to come on to help. And I've been doing it ever since, and just been the best 4 years of my life. God's just grown me so much, and I've been able to be a part of a lot of amazing things. And the honor to lead our team is just, it's massive. So I'm honored to be a part of it. It's changed my family's life forever. And I'm excited about what's to come, man. It's really, really exciting times.
I'm going to cheat here because I know the answer to this question, because I listened to your conversation with Josh McCabe on Overflow,
awesome.
His podcast. I think one of the things that always comes to mind when you're leading a whole bunch of creatives, a whole bunch of artists, people who do this all day, every day. It almost seems like it would be herding cats and it would be one of the toughest jobs in the church. What is the atmosphere within kind of that worship team with you being the worship pastor? How does that function with so many professional creatives?
Totally. I mean, what you just said is all the feelings I had too when Henry asked me to come on. And I was like, besides one or two other people, I was the youngest person on the team. I was probably the least qualified out of everyone, not trying to be overly humble. That's just the truth. And he asked me to come on and help lead the team. And I immediately just went to God and was like, God, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. Like, there's some people on this team that I've looked up to my whole life, and have sang their songs growing up, all that good stuff. And God just spoke to me, was like, I've obviously placed you here. I've obviously opened this door. Like you didn't, I did nothing. I couldn't have done anything to open the door for myself. And so he said, I will give you all the tools that you need to be amazing at this job and this position. And I'll give you the anointing and the authority to carry it well. And that's honestly the word that I've leaned on since then. And every time I come up against something that feels like hard or unknown, I lean on that. That's the biggest thing, honestly. And then obviously Henry built the team since the beginning of the church and has a relationship with all those people. Henry and Alex both have a relationship with our whole team still. And so they play a very vital role in leading that and are still very involved with that and just helping me learn. And we kind of lead it together, which has been a gift. He's, led creatives his whole adult life. And so I've just been able to kind of walk alongside him and learn. And it's just growing, man. And the best thing about it, honestly, is our team is just insane. They're amazing people. And they've all been so impacted by what God's done in their lives at our church that they're excited to be involved and they're excited to do whatever they can to help bring other people into that same encounter. And so that part of it is simple because they're all so excited and so amazing and have been amazing to allow me to come in and help guide and lead it. So it's a little bit of combination of a few things, but God's been so gracious, man. And it's exciting and challenging and all the things, but I'm honored and thankful, really, really thankful to be a part of it.
On the flip side of that, the Belonging Company, from what I understand, was started as a mostly Tuesday night industry to cater, like what you're saying, to the creatives that were on the road. It almost seems like between having the creatives there that do this day in, day out and leading a team of worship, it almost seems like at the same point, a lot of them would want to just take that break, would just rather sit in the audience and not participate on the worship team and just have that time to sit themselves. Do you see that a little bit as well?
I think it's always just a fluid, open-ended thing in the sense of if you feel like you need a season of just sitting and not doing this, then that's going to be always a part of the journey. But for the most part, I think people are excited to be able to use what God's given them in their church. Besides myself, none of our worship team are on staff. None of them are paid. They're all volunteering. They're all showing up like anyone else is. And they're all going into planning center, if you know what that is, to put in their block out dates and when they're unavailable and accepting and declining. They're doing all the things. I think that's just the culture that we've been really intentional about creating and keeping, in the sense of there's power when you plant in a church and when you serve a church. And it's seasonal for everyone. I mean, Danny Goki is one of the people on our team, and he didn't lead worship for a while. He was on the parking lot team, parking cars. So people would roll up to church and Danny would be out with a lightsaber, guiding their spot. And he honestly loved it. And there came a point where we were like, yeah, but Danny, you have this amazing gift of leading worship and we need to use that in our house as well. And he does that. He does that now too. But it's always like that. It's a culture where everyone's all in just to help build the church and help bring other people into an encounter with Jesus. So
I can just see Danny out with a lightsaber in the parking lot.
Right.
I have to see that image now. There had to have been some moves with the lightsaber.
Oh, come on, man. He definitely has some dance moves.
After seeing what he does at a live show, he has to do that in the parking lot. My brain just made that immediate connection there.
Oh, man. I don't know if I really ever saw him doing it, but I heard that he was one of the best there was, one of the best parkers there were. It's amazing.
I should pause here for just a second here as well. For those of you guys who haven't been involved with worship teams, Planning Center is one of the de facto organizational websites
Right.
You block yourself out. That's where schedules happen. All the positions are filled, and it's an amazing back end tool that helps worship teams coordinate and make sure that nobody just shows up all together, or that actually somebody actually shows up for a week. So
yeah, and you don't have to do it like when I started doing this as a kid, like in my youth group, where I would just email everyone an Excel spreadsheet or email everyone attachments of songs.
yeah,
We've come a long way, man.
it seems like you can't not do planning center anymore. That's almost like a cardinal sin right there.
100%. I don't know how you would do without it, but I'm glad you said that. That was probably way out of context for some people who have no idea what planning center is.
Yeah. I mean, for those of us who have been in worship teams and been involved
Yeah.
with that side of life, it's almost like second nature. Like
Right.
people don't know about planning center. Like how?
Right. Exactly. I always say planning center is like my best friend and my worst enemy at the same time.
I imagine sometimes with those schedules, it's almost like walking through a minefield. It's almost
Mhm.
trying to piece something together when everybody's out or everybody's in.
Totally, man. Well, it's crazy now too with like the quarantine. Like everyone's home. Like all the tours have been canceled. So it's like even for like the few recordings we've done for church to put online for live stream, it's been amazing because everyone's home and they're excited to help, and no one's playing music, so they're all excited to play music with someone. But I'm like waiting for the day, like with probably like the end of the year, beginning of 2021, where all the tours get rescheduled at the same time and no one's here.
Yeah.
I know that's on the way eventually, so I'm trying to enjoy it.
My hopeful optimism based on projections and everything that I've seen so far is I'm really hoping that's going to be like mid to late summer, that everything's starting to open up and concerts are able to start
Totally.
rolling through.
Right. Totally.
But we still have a ways to go before that.
Absolutely, man.
And so let's talk a little bit about that and the quarantine and how have you guys shifted? What's the creativity that's come out of this quarantine where it seems like we get yelled at every time we peek our head out the front door?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think what I've loved about the way that Henry and Alex have led this season for us as a church is that they've been really intentional not to just add a bunch of things like every day where you get overloaded with information, overloaded with content, but actually like we're going to do the same thing we always do as a church for the most part. It's just all going to be online now. So like we always have Monday morning prayer, whether it's women's prayer, it alternates between women's and men's prayer on Mondays. And so that's just moved to like an Instagram live on Monday mornings. Team nights have just moved to Zoom calls now, which I had never even heard of Zoom until all this happened. But now I'm a master at Zoom. It's mostly just been church is going to keep going on as normal, and we're going to keep providing that for you online, but also encouraging our people, like use this time wisely in the sense of use this time to get into God's word, use this time to spend time with him in his presence. Since you are at home for the most part, most of everyone's sitting at home and twiddling their thumbs a little bit, wondering what to do next. And what I felt and what we've all felt is that God's speaking really clearly in this season if we'll just listen, and he's inviting us to come a little deeper into a relationship with him. And so we've just been encouraging our people in that and trying to stay connected and loving on people that are dealing with hard things. The nice thing about it is that we've been able to pre-record some stuff at church and for worship. And so the live streams have sounded really, really good. We're trying to use it to our advantage and just make it the best we can in this season. The other crazy thing is that we're almost ready to move into our new building. We've been meeting at like a venue since the beginning of the church. And so we're hoping like June-ish is when we're going to move in. So there's a good chance we'll move right back to the church at the new building instead of where we have been meeting, which is crazy.
That'll be incredible.
I think it'll be really exciting for our church. I think that's the biggest thing that we've felt, is like the first thing you think when something like this happens is like, well, is everything going to change? Is everything going to like fall off? But we've really felt like our church is flourishing, and the church at large across the world is flourishing in this season. And there's more people tuning in online than ever have, and salvations are coming through online all the time. Testimonies of healing, and just feels like God's really moving as people are a little less distracted maybe than they normally are. So I'm excited for whenever we get to meet together again. Like I think there's going to be this anticipation of like being together again as a church and worshiping together again in person. And so we'll see, man. I think it'll be a really exciting time, and for every church, for everyone that's having to navigate this in their own season, we're actually really hopeful.
I talked with Seth and Nerva Reddy a couple episodes back, and one of the things that they were saying in that episode was they've noticed a change in how people connect with the worship. And they were saying that it's almost like people didn't connect with the worship from the recording like they would in a corporate worship. So they're kind of navigating how to bring that experience into home and just really keep people connected into worship. Is that something that you guys are seeing as well? And how are you kind of adapting to the change in format?
I think we've, in a sense, tried to keep it the same. Like, honestly, the recordings we've done have like been so powerful. Like, as we're recording it, no one's in the room, so it's like this weird thing of I'm leading worship to cameras, and there's going to be thousands of people that tune into this whenever it happens. But right now in this room, physically, there's no one here, and so that's a new experience as a worship leader. But for me, it's like caused me to just kind of really dig into those like basic truths and basic skills, for lack of a better term, of being a worship leader and just listening to God's voice as you're leading. And at our church, like, we really like lean into spontaneous moments with God and worship, and really just not letting everything fall into like a set list, but more of just, God, why don't you show up, bring your presence? Like, that's why we're here, is to lift you up and to encounter you. And so the recordings we've had so far have just been so powerful. Like, all of us are walking off after we've done it, like crying, because God's presence was so strong. And we've had some amazing spontaneous moments, and just the testimony of then people watching it later in their homes of like, man, I feel the presence of God in my house right now. Like, I'm like crying. I'm like worshiping. Like, I feel so much peace. I feel like a new renewed hope. All those things that in this season where you feel isolated at home, but for, a couple hours as you're watching and tuning into church, God's presence is there. And hopefully it can encourage people to like, let that be an everyday thing of every day filling your house with worship, filling your house with prayer and praise. And so it's been really good, man. I think we've just chosen to like lift up our heads in this season and realize that God's moving and God is still speaking. He's still healing. He's still wanting to encounter people where they are, instead of like in a room of worship. It's actually in their living rooms or in their kitchens. And so he's been really faithful to do that. And so it's been really exciting. And we're still figuring it out, but it's been good so far.
I think the natural question that comes after that is, what do you see changing permanently? How do you think this is going to affect the Belonging Co. long term? Once we come out, we're able to actually come to church and not be afraid of everybody with a little sniffle and get back to quote unquote normal. How do you see this changing the Belonging Co. long term?
I don't know, man. I think it's yet to be seen, but I think one thing for sure is that we felt this renewed sense of like all of us personally engaging with God in our relationship with Him on a new level. And even if it's like a returning to it, I think it's easy in church life, even as like just an attendee of church, not even like what I'm doing as a staff position. It's easy to get caught up in this rhythm of like, I go to church on Sunday, I go to this small group on Thursday, I do this thing on Wednesday night, whatever it may be for you. And it's easy to get caught up in that rhythm, and it just becomes routine, and it becomes not life-giving because we're just not open. It's not like God's presence isn't there. It's not like His word isn't being preached and spoken. It's actually, we get in the routine and start to like not be sensitive to it anymore. So I think something like this, where it switches up our routine and it causes you to actually press in for it, and no one's like spoon feeding you in a sense, like you're in the room with them. I'm hoping that we walk out of this stronger personally in our relationship with God. I think it'll make everyone realize the importance of community and the importance of being together and gathering together. And I think as we come back to that, it's going to be like, oh, wow, how much did I miss this? How much did I miss being with my community, being with my family at church? And I think that'll be a big thing that we all feel. Honestly, I feel that. I don't know about you, but I already feel that sense of like, man, I miss people. I miss being around my friends at church and getting to worship with my people, and just getting to hang out with people, give people a hug,
Yeah.
And so I think all that stuff, I think there'll be a renewed sense of why we do church. There's a reason why we gather together. There's a reason why we sing. It's not just for a routine. It's not just to make ourselves feel better about our lives, but it's actually because there's power in it, and there's a reason that God set it up that way. And so I think we'll all come back to church really feeling a renewed sense of thankfulness for it, for God's house, and such importance of bringing other people along on that journey with you. So we'll see, man. I think it's exciting times.
One of the things that I hear, a lot is like, well, I can worship God where I'm at.
Right.
And I probably said that with a little bit more disdain than I probably should have.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
I don't need to go to church to worship God. Or you hear a lot of those phrases. And now that
Mhm.
we can't go to church, and now that we can't venture out of our houses, seems like that we have a little bit different of a perception on that we can worship anywhere thing. Well, yes, we
Mhm.
can, but just the importance of other people and worshiping with other people is just as important.
Totally, man. I mean, I think it's something that's honestly unexplainable in a sense, but I think we've all experienced it if you have been in church singing with a group of people. Like, there's just something that happens in your spirit. There's something that happens in your mind when you're with a whole group of people and you're all unified, singing the same thing, declaring who God is, declaring what he's doing and how worthy he is of our worship and our praise. It's just something that happens that's unexplainable. And I don't think you can ever recreate that. I think we can all engage in God's presence in prayer and reading his word and like worshiping our own. And that's something that's so vital. Like, it's something that's so vital in my life, but there's nothing like gathering together and singing. It just changes something. It brings peace to minds that are full of anxiety. We've had so many testimonies of people walking into church and no one's praying for them, but they get healed in the middle of worship, or they get an email of like a job offer that they've been believing for as they were just praising God with a group of people in a room. You can't conjure that stuff up. It just happens. And that's what God's presence does. And that's what the church is meant to be. And yeah, man, I think you're right. Like, that thing of, I don't need to gather together, I don't need to go to church, I think it might fall away a little bit for some people, where now it's like, man, I'm so longing for that. I'm so longing for community. And so I think it is exciting.
As we start to travel down to talking about the song that you just released, what I want to know, and hopefully we can get a little bit of an inside scoop here, is what are the songs that are coming out of this period for the Belonging Co? I mean, we have everybody sitting at home waiting for something to do, and with what the Belonging Co does already, I'm really interested to see what song comes out of this season here. Series of songs that comes out of the season.
Totally, man. I mean, the song we just released is called Holy, Song of the Ages. And I wrote it with Pastor Henry and one of the worship leaders on our team named Daniela Mason. And she's an artist herself. And we wrote it at the end of last year in December. It's just a song of literally just praise. The chorus is the thing that we've all sung and read and heard a million times of Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. It came from a moment where our pastor, Alex Seeley, challenged us as a worship team to really dive back into the Word of God and make that a priority in our lives. It sounds like such a basic thing, but I think she felt the need to challenge us in that, and not only in our songwriting, but also in our leading, in our relationships, in our day-to-day lives. And Daniela was so challenged by that, went home and read all of Genesis, and came that day when we were writing and was just like, man, I'm just so overwhelmed by this sense of all of creation was created to praise God. And they've been singing the same song, Holy, Holy, Holy is the Lord, all of heaven singing that song. And we get the chance to join in on that song every time we sing, every time we come to church, every time we listen to worship music, we get the chance to join in on the song, the eternal song. And so the song really is from that place. And it's crazy. The bridge came from just a spontaneous moment at church. I was leading and just started singing, I won't stop singing, I won't stop singing. These lungs are made to sing your praise. And it's crazy how God works, man, because we didn't know all this stuff was going to be happening in the world when we started doing the song at church and when we recorded it and set a release date. And then when it did come out, it was like, man, this song is actually so important for people to be singing right now. I won't stop singing, no matter what my situation is, no matter what my circumstance is. I won't stop singing. I'll keep singing, Holy, Holy, Holy is the Lord. And really just a chance to lift up your head and lift up your eyes from what's in front of you. And so I think that's been the biggest thing for that song, at least. And I think for us in this season, it's like we are trying to do our best to write songs that do just that, of magnifying Jesus and giving people language to sing that makes them realize that God is more powerful than whatever they may be facing right now. And it's, instead of singing about our situation and singing about our problems, let's actually start singing about who Jesus is. Let's actually start declaring who he is over our lives and what he can do and all those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We were supposed to have a writing retreat actually this month for our team.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's obviously gotten canceled.
as with everything.
Yeah, so we're just trying to encourage our people. Like, just because we're not doing these things doesn't mean that you can't be writing and really engaging with God. And so I think when we are able to get together again and not just have Zoom rights,
Yeah.
I think everyone's going to bring ideas that are really, really crazy out of this season, really, really amazing. And so I think it's yet to be seen a little bit of what's to come. And that's kind of how we operate as a church, especially with our music, is we try not to get ahead of ourselves in the sense of planning out records and planning out release dates. It's more of just like, let's just write for our house, write for our church. And as that stuff comes, as those songs come and they feel like they are greater than just us here in Nashville, we can start releasing them. And so the art and creativity kind of come before the planning, if that makes sense. So yeah, we're just in a bit of the season of still writing, and we're always writing. We're always, literally every time we have church, we're recording. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be beautiful though.
So have you guys figured out if the latency over Zoom is enough that you can still write together? Can you still
Honestly,
real time do that?
I haven't actually done Zoom right because I've been avoiding it because I know that's going to be really, really hard. I was actually just talking to a producer on our team today, and he was saying that he's been doing them, and it's just really, really hard because if I'm sitting with a guitar in my house and you're at your house trying to sing while I'm playing, it's literally impossible because the latency is so bad. So it's more of just like everyone mutes their mics while they figure it out and then unmute when you're ready to share what you've been working on. We'll see how it goes. I think we probably will, because it's going to be longer than just a couple weeks. We probably will start jumping in on some Zoom rights. I'm up for the challenge though. We'll see what happens.
So this is the total technical geeky side of this, but
yeah,
what I had heard is that I think 24 milliseconds and below for latency is enough that the human ear can't really detect the latency in there. So when you're talking in a certain geographical region, and of course, if your internet's good and all that, it's theoretically possible to get under that 24 millisecond.
Right.
If you're talking, Nashville to New Mexico, pull somewhere out, that's just impossible because that's well over that 24 millisecond. But, if you're in the same city, like Nashville, or if you're all in Dallas here or something like that, they say it's theoretically possible. Like, I'm just interested to see if that actually works or not.
I know, man. I mean, you are the master, obviously. You're the IT guy. I've heard a couple people say it's really, really hard. But even the other day, like, we were doing like a prayer meeting on Instagram Live, and one of our pastors was leading it, and I joined to like lead worship on the prayer meeting. And he just kind of had to not sing when I was singing. Like, he just had to sit there or mouth the lyrics because it's so laggy. And then like how Instagram works is it quiets the mic that's the quietest. It makes the louder person like more pronounced in the audio. So if he would try to start doing something while I was trying to lead a song, then it would take his mic and give it preference. It's crazy, man. So it's all that stuff we're trying to navigate how to do it best, and also just like give ourselves grace. It's not always gonna be perfect.
Part of it is it's cool that everybody's kind of doing this together. Everybody's trying to figure all this out together. But that's also kind of the bad part about it is everybody's doing this all together.
Yeah.
We're all finding the answers at the same time. There's no one.
Totally.
There's people that have been doing it a bit more, but like I said, it seems like for the most part, everybody's doing it together.
I mean, that's one thing we have been really thankful for, is that we had live stream beforehand. We had really worked on to make that amazing and look amazing, sound amazing. And so all the systems were already in place. I have friends that are at churches that didn't have any of that in place, whether it was live stream or online giving even. And so they've had to just literally revamp everything that they're doing. And so I think it's definitely different for every single person in every single career you might be in. Like, my wife is a nurse, so she's still going into work. Nothing's really changed for her, but all of us are just navigating it together, which is fun.
Yep. Well, I mean, be sure to thank her for all the rest of us, especially when we don't know a lot of what's going on with the virus and what it is and all that. That's walking into the fire every day, and that's something special right there.
Totally, man. She's a hero. Thankfully, she's not in like a hospital that's dealing with patients that have it. She's at a clinic, but her clinic is still like obviously being necessary to give people treatment. So but they're having to change everything that they're doing. Like they're wearing masks the whole time they're there, having to wear the same mask all week long because the shortage of masks. So it's definitely gone to a new level of difficulty and just being super careful and trying to care for people. So
Well,
she's definitely on the front lines, and she's amazing, man.
yeah, absolutely. And I know here in Texas, just from the perspective here, is you have to go to a clinic first before you can go to a test site. So
Right.
they're almost more on that front line, in the clinics here,
Yeah.
because they're qualifying. When somebody walks in, you don't know
Right.
if they have the virus or not,
Right.
if they're infected or not.
Yeah.
Whereas,
She's actually at an oncology clinic, so it's
gotcha,
not like a Walgreens or something where it's like a clinic to get tested. It's more of the consistent same patients coming in to get treatment. So,
gotcha.
but you also don't know where those people have been or if
Yep.
they're around people that are sick,
Man, I'm trying to kind of add to the situation here, man. You just keep defusing it. Come on, I need some help.
Sorry. I'm just kind of always my disposition is I'm just like, I'm going to be hopeful and like see the good in everything. So,
No, like I said, it's still something right now, just for
oh,
all those
man,
frontline and the healthcare. It doesn't
it
matter.
totally is.
It doesn't matter if it's oncology or your local
Yeah,
clinic or whatever. There's still
Oh,
uncertainty everywhere with all this. So
100%, man. We've definitely had to fight against that fear of like, man, do you need to keep working? Do you keep going in? And I'm just trying to be really careful and conscious and be smart, Even when she comes home, she's got to like take her shoes off before she comes in because we have a 1-year-old. But it's just really, honestly, just speaking like life and healing and health over our family and receiving the promises of God and just trusting Him. That's all you can do, man. Like sometimes it's just a little bit of blind trust and faith and knowing who God is and His character. And so that's what we're standing on, man. But it is definitely hard sometimes.
yeah. And when you're talking about that, the thing that really gets me about this one is we don't know what this is doing. We don't know all the
Yeah.
specifics. We don't know what the true infection rate is. There's a
Right.
lot about this that we don't know. And for a society like ours, that we have all the answers. Science is king.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everything, whether you do or not. Just kind of that attitude about everything. And now here's this tiny little invisible enemy that
Yeah.
we have
Totally,
no idea
man.
about, and we can't fit our mold of we know everything to it,
Yeah.
and it's just driving everybody bananas.
It really is. It is a crazy thing for us, especially in our society, like what you're saying. And I think your question earlier about how is this going to change church, I think that is a big one. The sense of, man, I don't have any choice right now. If I am a believer, if I do believe in who Jesus is and who God is and who He says He is, I've got to put my trust in Him. I've got to put my hope in Him. Because maybe your job you don't have a job right now. Maybe you're unemployed. Maybe you are sick and you're dealing with something and there are so many unknowns and it's so easy to get overwhelmed by that. And hopefully us as believers, as a church, can just be like, all right, God, like I look to you. I put my trust in you. My foundation right now in my own personal life may feel shaky, but I know that you're a firm foundation. And it's all those simple truths that we say a lot, as Christians, and it can kind of become Christianese. I think now in this season, it's becoming like so vital for us to really believe those things and really stand on who God is. And there's other societies and other like other countries that this is kind of a normal for them. There's so many unknowns, and I think what you're saying is so true. Like for us, this is a new thing. It's wild.
That's one of the lessons that I really hope that we take as we come out of this, is just that trust in God for that unknown. And I mean, it's completely uncomfortable for us, but and a lot of times foreign. That's one of the truths that we pull back once we're kind of on the other side of this thing.
100%, man. I love that.
I think we're co-writing a song right now. I think this might be a writing session here.
Let's do it. Hey, this is better than Zoom. There's no lag. It might be better on Zoom.
Yeah, I know, right? FaceTime. But
FaceTime.
There's a limit of 8. Is it 8?
Yeah.
So
well, I've never written a song with more than 8 people. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've never written a song with more than 0 people. So
there you go.
There we go.
This is your first time, bro.
Yes,
that's amazing.
We're gonna have to develop this. After the episode here, we're gonna have to keep going with this.
Yeah, and then we'll release it for the whole world.
Yeah, exactly. The the home studio sessions.
Come on, man. That's what everything is now.
No joke. Well, we are very happy to have you as our April Artist of the Month and Holy Song of the Ages. We're very excited for that. And we're looking forward to what comes out of the Belonging Co. Once this season is over, because we know it's going to be something great. There's going to be a lot of songs. There's going to be a lot coming out of this, and we're excited for it.
Amen. Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. Honored to be a part, and thank you guys for what you're doing and just helping the world find new music, find worship. I think it's such an important job right now. So appreciate you guys.